The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an effect to that to give it kind of a blur in effect. Add a little extra kick to it. Okay, so to do the blur, what I want to do is I'm going to go up to my, it's a special effect, so I'm going to go to my event FX, or I could go up into my project area and do a, find it that way. Here's the plugins. So I'm going to choose the Sony Gaussian blur, add that, say OK, and what I want to do is I want to do some keyframes of that, because if I do it like right now, the whole thing will be blurred. Everywhere it's blurred. I don't want it to be blurred everywhere. I want it to start clear and crisp, and at the end, as it starts to move away, it's going to blur out. So I'm going to come over to my, click that back on here, and put some keyframes in there. So I want it to be at the 0 keyframe, no blur at all. Excuse me. And then somewhere along, maybe towards the end here, I'm going to start to blur it out. So what I need to do is add a second keyframe. So from the very first to close to the edge here, there'll be no blur, and then it will start to blur out to here. So now I'm going to bring it back, blur it back up. Horizontal and a little vertical, blur it both ways. Sure, that looks pretty good. So now what happens is it turns, and then when it's going to hit in a minute here, it's going to start to blur out. Shh. Okay, now one last thing effect we want to add is to give it a little bit of movement. So that's going to be the event pan crop, and with keyframes again, I want it to come into place. It's going to lock in, and then at some point here, when it gets ready to lock in, I want it to start to grow, come out at us. And you know what I might do is I might have it a little smaller at the beginning. So my very first keyframe, I'm going to have it a little bit smaller. Pull it out a little bit. And have it maintain that till about here. Just about till it's back to perfect. Put a keyframe here. And now I want it from here to start to grow. So I'm going to add another keyframe here. Move that over a little bit. And then until the end, I'm going to have it all blurred out. I'm going to have it zoomed out. So it's going to zoom right off. So let's see how that looks. Here it comes, it's rotating, it's rotating, it's going to hit the blur soon. Boom, it comes out at me, and as it comes out, it blurs off into oblivion. Pretty cool. And now the last thing I'm going to do is give that text a little more action, a little more of a 3D feel. I'm going to put that good old Sony bump map. So back to my special effects. I want to add another one. So this is plug-in chain. Brings it back up. And I want to find that bump map. Where'd it go? Here it is. Okay. I had to add it, my bad. Click it back. Sony bump map. There, now it's added. There's the blur and then the bump map. And I'm going to go in and change the bump map, give that angle a little bit around here. And you can see my preview now. It's giving that text a little more definition, kind of giving a little drop shadow. And I should probably put a drop shadow on it. Increase the bump up. Just play with it, whatever it needs. I will go back and put a drop shadow. Click back into the media generator, go to the effect, give it a little drop shadow. Oh, that's cool. So now I need to do one more track above this, and in this track I'm going to have the text say presents. Come on. Okay, so in the top track I'm going to do my presents, and just to cheat a little bit, I'll copy the bottom one and then paste it in. Create a new copy. That way it'll remember the font choices and it'll remember all the special effects. I can change them up some. Make this a little bit smaller. Maybe change it officially up here in the length. Let me make this one just make it 5 seconds. And instead of 218, it's going to say presents. And placement can be right there. Now, if you remember, what's happening is the 218 is coming out at the screen. So to make this kind of work, I'm going to have the presents come make it big and get it smaller. So it's kind of going they're kind of going in opposite directions. Kind of flow nice that way. So I'm gonna go to my vent pan crop, and I'm gonna start. Right now, all these guys are on top of each other. I want to start it kind of big. So I'm going to blow it up. And then from there I want it to get smaller. But I don't need it to get, I can just have it go right smaller all the way. So I'll just go from here to the end. Is it smaller or bigger? I need to bring that track back a little bit. That's making it smaller. Okay, cool. And I want to do that little blur thing out at the beginning. The old Gaussian blur. What's a special effect? I think I already have that on here though. Let's go look at that. Yeah, I've got the Gaussian blur on there. So the first keyframe in the Gaussian blur is nothing. And I wanna make it the opposite. See, when I change the length of these, all these keyframes got jacked up. And oh, by the way, if you, when you went to your Gaussian blur, if you don't see that, you gotta pull that out. So get rid of that one. So I want the very first Gaussian blur to actually be blurry. And then very quickly I want it to become unblurry, so I can actually read it. And then it can stay unblurry as it slides off. And I'll fade it up just a little bit. Let's see how this looks. So the one leaves, the other one comes in. I got blurry at the end there. I messed that up. This last one here doesn't need to be blurry. Actually, I don't need that at all. I think it was a little bit too fast. There's the minus. Slow it. Make that go a little bit slower. 218 Productions. Let's try. 218 Productions gets bigger, it's coming out, and then bam, presents, comes in, goes back, goes smaller, 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 and fades out. It's pretty quick. Probably. There, slow it down a little bit. Fade out the end. 218 Productions, presents, fades out. Not perfect, but this video is pretty long already. I think you get the main point. The last thing is to insert your audio, and I had found a bunch of songs, so I had like a few to choose from. I think I put them inside my, I don't know where I put them inside. Countdown maybe? Vegas intro. Tasks. Okay, I found all my music files I had. So I had a few to choose from, and if you haven't discovered this is auto preview. So if you just click on the file, it'll start to play. That's all good. This is the one I ended up using to dig up. It's kind of got that natural flow sound to it. Good for an intro. So I dropped that into place. And basically, from here on, it's kind of just a little bit of trial and error for me. I kind of visually look for parts of the song where you can see it's doing a transition, and try to match it up with something like a natural flow here as the thing is rotating in. The music would be one thing, and then when it hits its point right there, if you get like a change in the music, just to kind of show that. Or another spot is when the one fades out and the next one fades in. So it's a great spot too. So you're kind of looking at the music lines here, and I'm trying to find those. So I think what I ended up doing is I kind of started the song towards the middle. So I had a transition right here where it switched. I also had another transition in here. So you just kind of eyeball it, and hopefully you get lucky. And turns out, I think in the end mine turned out pretty good. Just to show it to you one last time. Here it is. It's flowing down, kind of goes with those blue bars. Transition, and text shows up, boom, pauses right there, and then that worked out pretty nice. That little whoop came up. So see what you come up with. Hopefully you'll like it, and it'll be good enough to put in the front of your videos. And don't forget, if you want to check out this one, they do some real cool effects with the glowing and the 3D. So sorry it took me so long in this tutorial, but hopefully you followed along and you came up with something that's pretty good.